Let me into my zone. Let me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let.
Hi. Hello, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Welcome to this next week of trading. It's Monday morning over here from a very dark, once again, Helsinki, Finland. Not as cold though. It's actually nowhere near as cold as last year. So I guess global warming is really true. And I await all of the comments that are like, Krown, don't you know? It's like, hey, it's just a joke. It's all good. Anyways, we got a few things to talk about here on Bitcoin. A lot of the low time frame ideas that we talked about yesterday actually happened. Got that pullback that we were looking for, then bounced off that essentially gap fill area from 7,300. Now, what is the next big piece of order of work for this next week's price action? So we'll be discussing that today. A lot of actually really interesting things going on in lower time frames, which can have massive effects into the higher time frames. So I'm very excited to be talking about that relatively soon. And this could be one of those times where, you know, it's time to pay attention to Bitcoin once again, because those fun moves are very likely at the precipice of happening. Anyways, before we get into that, I do want to make a few announcements. I will officially announce later today, or sorry, before I get even into that, I will be definitely doing a Twitch stream later today. I do apologize about the, well, about not doing it the last couple days. It was for good reason. As you can see in the background, the room has been set up a little bit more and just some more upgrades on the way. So I'm very excited about that. It's been extremely intense, but it's one of my personal pleasures, like just upping the quality of this, because it's just guilty as what it is. I like doing that. I like making the experience better. So with that said, it was for good reason, but we will definitely be on later today. And actually today is going to be a very long one because I woke up early and, well, I can get everything else done that I need to get done early, and probably start, I don't know, in the very early European, or sorry, Eastern Hemisphere for the American Eastern time morning, perhaps somewhere around like let's call it like 7 or 8 a.m. Eastern time. Anyways, with that said, I want to get into the actual announcements right now. The subscription tiers for the indicators are now live. I will make an official announcement and post an official video later today. So it's going to go into depth, kind of explaining, you know, what to expect with them. And then also make an announcement on Discord, because I haven't done that just yet, but I figured, you know, everyone's kind of gone for the weekend anyways. We have the basic tier right over here. That is just access to the Krown trading stochastics, and then videos on how to use the Krown trading stochastics. Then we have the professional tier right over here. That is access to the Krown trading stochastics, RSI and Fibonacci, and again, videos with how to use them. And in the future, you'll notice actually in these little bullet points down here, in the future, we will be adding more and more features to the app, which is upcoming in probably the next week and a half, we're looking for. And you'll essentially be granted those extra features. And then the Jewel tier, of course, as well, which is access to the Jewel and, of course, all the other indicators. And then more importantly, or just as important, is access to the Jewel channel on Discord. And, of course, access to the to those other features on the app as well. Of course, the base application is going to be 100% free, but there are some sort of like timings with APIs and whatnot. Technical terms that I don't really understand myself, but basically because a lot of the data is going to be, you know, real time or a little bit delayed, though, you know, those real time data will be provided for the people who are in these programs, for example. Anyways, and then of course, you know, for the base free for the base free app, you know, it might be on like a 5-minute delay or something like that. Anyways, okay, alrighty. Let's see. I'm just trying to think of like what bullshit title I'm going to come up with today. As always, it's got to be a fake clickbait title and then real content after that. But today is actually a fun day because we actually do have a few new things going on here. So I'm going to get into live scene right now. And this is CMEs right here on a daily. And as you can see, we actually have done a couple of very interesting things. So we took out last week's high, I believe it was. Yes, we have. We have traded above last week's high. And on CMEs, things look a lot more rosy. The picture being painted is a lot more rosy. But there's a couple very obvious things that I'll be keeping an eye on. This wick high that we have coming in from the 22nd of December at 77.15, which remember that CMEs have about a $90 premium on spot price action right now. If we take out that high, then very, very likely I would look for a move up to around 7,900, 7,800 to 7,900 on spot. It's probably gonna be like 7,900 to 8,000 on CMEs. And that's where this whole picture starts to take on a completely different tone. It does look to me like we actually are gonna be resolving this descending broadening. Okay, let's just get a whole new chart here because this is too much. It looks to me like we're gonna be resolving this ascending broadening wedge to the upside, which on CMEs is pretty much there actually. Looking at it right here, it's looking good to me, man. And just taking out last week's high is a pretty big deal. Look at this. The mesh move actually would be pointed up towards the 200 moving average on the daily right here on CMEs, which is around that 8,500 number, which is also going to very likely be in line with this long-term downtrend resistance line. Holy fucking shit. Sometimes that technical analysis stuff, it actually matches up. So I do like the confluences within this region. We also do see a nice liquid zone coming in from, what was this, like October? Yeah, right around here. And right around here. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and mark this area off. It's looking pretty damn good. And I'm not saying that it's going to go there today, but I would say that especially if we take out this high right here at about 77.15 on CMEs once again, yes, I would very, very likely be looking towards extension there. Although, of course, I would be as well looking for a little bit of a pullback somewhere in the upper 7,000s, like 7,900 to 8,000 on CMEs in this region right here. So that's what I'd be looking for, and things are looking better. We see momentum oscillators pointed upwards. We see daily Stokes still headed north. They are maintaining the bullish control zone, so I do like that. Daily RSI is for the first time in a very long time maintaining itself above the bearish control zone since literally a couple months ago in November. So this is a big deal, and this is all happening, or sorry, and actually speaking of the jewel is giving you a continuation buy signal right here. So there was a decent buy signal right here. This was on the low of, this was coming off the low somewhere in this region right here. It's not perfect, so I actually kind of miss this one myself. But this one's saying that we actually still have momentum on our side. Again, it's not perfect. I don't like to take those, but now let's go down to the lower time frames and kind of follow from what we spoke about yesterday, because I've already kind of superseded that. But you know, we did get that pull back down to the 7,300-ish region. I do believe that the gap is filled on CMEs. I'm sure that someone's going to be like, but Krown, well, actually there's no question about this. 100% filled. Jesus Christ, man. Because I always get like, every time there's a new fucking weekly open, I always get a million messages. Has the CME gap been filled? Yes, it's been filled. If you're in the TA program, by the way, if you're in the TA program, I should say, there is, maybe it's even the last video in the bonus section, or the second to last video in the bonus section. I did about an hour-long video on how to trade gaps and what they mean and essentially how they work. Maybe I think it's the second last video actually. Anyways, so yeah, definitely been filled, and we got that bounce from that area, so very, very nice. And you know, again, it's not like I called like an immediate move back up to 7,600, but that is, you know, that's why I take things one step at a time. I do see that on spot price action, and let's actually specifically go through spot price action right here. I'm gonna get rid of these alerts because they're actually just kind of in the way. This one right here is not needed, and I want to first and foremost say that I'm actually not bearish on the short or medium time frames right now, as long as we are below, as long as we are above, bad slip of the tongue there, as long as we are above 7,100. As long as we are above 7,100, I actually think that Bitcoin is short-term, medium-term bullish here, personally speaking. We will be working on some bearish divergence in the lower time frames, but that's probably going to line up for a little bit of a pullback later on down the road. For right now, Bitcoin actually still looks okay. Probably trades sideways here for a bit, but I would be looking, granted off the lower term time frames, probably for another test back up towards a $7,600 level. Looking at an hourly, we do see hourly Stokes still headed up, but they are going to be meeting this trend line, so it's a little bit nasty. Maybe I'm going to be wrong about this actually. Not actually, of course, I'm wrong all the time. Looking at that bi-hourly, no, looks okay. 3 hourly, okay. 4 hour coming down a little bit. Yeah, so I'm not really seeing anything obvious from these guys, but just looking at structure here, I actually do think that Bitcoin does make another swipe, does make another attempt at this $7,600 level right here. In fact, 76. A little bit above 7,600, like 7,620 or something like that. But that's where the next sort of thing for the lower term time frame start to come into play once again. And fucking hell, man, I need to get rid of these because they are just, they're still relevant, but they're not what they're not the purpose of what we're looking at right now. We actually do also see a breakout out of this formation right here too. And you know, have gotten the retest back down to 74.50 already. I would argue that, yeah, we kind of already have gotten that. Yeah, I'd still be looking for another test back up here towards about 76.20-ish region. If Bitcoin can start closing 4-hour dildos above there, I would extend that that target, especially if we can close a 12-hour or a daily above there, preferably. I would extend that target all the way up here towards 7,800 actually. Anywhere between about 77.50 and 7,800 is where I'd be looking towards. So I'm actually going to put in a blue box right there for the short and medium term timeframes to kind of follow up on this one. But again, this is if and only if we do close a 4-hour dildo, preferably above this little local high right here, about 7,600 we'll call it. A 12-hour above 75.50 would be a big deal as well, but the 12 hour isn't closing anytime soon. But the 12-hour looks good here. We're about to get the cross of the 10 simple and the yellow 21 exponential average, which I do think is going to actually get divergence away from each other. And I do think that we have a little bit of momentum to be gained to the upside here. We also do still see 12-hour Stokes still headed to the north side, although they are getting a little bit up there. But probably good for another push, I'd imagine. So how would I be, or how would I know if I'm going to be wrong on this idea that Bitcoin likely gets another push? As long as we're closing, especially 2-hour dildos above 74.50, I do think that Bitcoin is more or less going to test some more upside here. And then after that, we'll probably get a nice little pullback and then come back and reassess. Remember, the critical areas that we've been speaking about for the past 2 weeks, two and a half weeks, are still very much prevalent, still very much valid. The 2-day 21 exponential moving average or 75.50. Whichever one we can close above first on either a 12-hour 12-hour daily or 2-day. In this case, the 2-day is actually going to be closing later tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So if we can close this 2-day above, especially 75.50, I would look for, again, extension to 77.50 to 7,800. So another, $300 to $400 move. Not bad. And personally speaking, I actually think, I think we'd have a nice pullback from that region, but I actually think that we'd take the next leg up into the mid to low 8,000s and eventually likely hit that mid $8,000 target. We do see that 2-day Stokes on spot price action are still resilient in this region. Anytime I see a snake like this that kind of unravels itself, usually we're going to fall through in that direction, as it's kind of saying that we're resilient. You see that we're breaking above this same area that we've been getting rejected from ever since July of last year, 2019. So that was well in the 5 digits, somewhere around 12,500, I'd imagine. So that is a change of behavior from that metric. Not only that, but going over here to the weekly, we do still see that the weekly Stokes have been kind of rallying off the same area that we have found our lows since, well, I guess I already have it in there right now, but have been rallying off the same area that we found our lows since literally almost a year ago in February 2019. So that was on this higher low right here. Also caught this this low right here before the $3,000 pump. Also caught this low right here more recently, which does make me think that we probably fill out this territory. So I've been speaking about a lot of bullish things right now, but I want to be very, 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 very clear and stating this. While I actually do think that Bitcoin probably does rally up here and probably does have some upside, overall, I am not bullish on Bitcoin, like as far as macro goes, until we get a reversal on the weekly. And to get a reversal on the weekly is not impossible, but it's pretty fucking difficult from this current area, because in order to get a reversal, we need both a higher high and a higher low. And at this point, to get a higher high, we need to get back above about 9,500 right here on this October spike up to 95 on a weekly closing basis. That is obviously well below this long-term downturn resistance line right here, which is also well below the weekly 21, which is also well below the 10 simple on the weekly, which is also well below the 55 on the weekly, but is also well below the measure move to the upside at 8,500 on the weekly, which is also well below this massive spike in volume. This higher value note on the volume profile right here in the lower 8,000s. So the mid to low 8,000s is going to be a lot to chew through. And I just want to show that longer term, while I actually do think that Bitcoin has some upside here, I'm not really convinced on it, reversing the trend. Doesn't mean that it can't, but it's got a lot of work to do, from a higher time frame perspective. Anyways, actually, now that I look at, hold on, what chart is this? This is Bitstamp. Okay, this is actually a little bit concerning. I just realized that we have this massive trend line right here, which has been getting our last few highs from 28th of November, 23rd of December, and more recently right here. You know what? I have to really step back from being short-term, medium-term bullish until we actually get a 12-hour delta close, especially above 70. If we get above 75.50, that would be good. 7,600 would be obvious. So there is still a little bit to be aware of here. If I had to guess, I do think that we get another run at 7,600. But do we close above there or not? I don't have a strong opinion on that. It looks a little bit to me like we do, like Bitcoin likely does do that, and we will get continuation here. But that would still be a point of, a point of reference. And again, for the downside, 74.50 on a 2-hour dildo close below there, and I would be looking for Bitcoin to come very likely all the way back down to like 7,200-ish, 7,250-ish. So $200 move, still be ranging, and we just found another high, and this is going to still look like a descending triangle. So it's a long day left of trading to go, and remember, to the upside, it's 75.50 on a higher time frame close. On to the downside, it's still 6,900 to the downside for an actual resolution of the descending triangle. Remember, bears are looking at this as a descending triangle. What I'm showing right here, again, it looks way too convoluted. I apologize, but something like this. This is what bears are looking at. It is still valid. Bulls are obviously looking at this as a descending broadening wedge, which we showed all the way over here. Let me get rid of this. Jesus Christ, man, these charts are too fucking convoluted. And we also saw it on CMEs as well. So those are the two competing narratives. If I had to call it right now, I actually do think that Bitcoin makes another leg up. But again, I'm not trading this right now. I'm not interested in trading this right now. We're like right at the precipice of this next major move, and I don't really see a need to force it in here. It's like trading rape. Anyways, looking at this right here, we do see that on this formation, whether you look at it as a descending broadening wedge or or a descending triangle, a descending broadening wedge obviously more bullish, a descending triangle obviously more bearish. We are going to be looking at a resolution probably later this week. We are on the 6th day of January. I would say around the 13th to 14th. So maybe maybe next week, early next week, we very likely get an official break out of this range. So I'd say that we are looking at a relatively big move relatively soon, I do think. I'm curious if the lower term time frame historical volatility percentiles are agreeing with this. And 4-hour is still long-term contracting. It's actually long-term contracting here, because we do see that this trend line has been met once again, pretty much. I mean, just running regression through there. And would that still kind of align with what we're looking at? No, this is actually going to speak to the greater whole here. We need to go down to a lower time frame than this to really get the very, very low turn time frames. And we don't really have a signature here. We just kind of redlined it out. Probably going to go through a phase of contraction actually more than anything. So I'm actually not getting too much from this. Well, I'm getting something from it. It's just telling me that actually we might be waiting a little bit. So fair enough. Either that, or we're actually going to let's go see what like a 12-hour says. 12-hour still contracting pretty heavily, but that's going to be coming in at an apex again like April, May, probably. Daily, same thing, I think. Coming in from our $14,000 highs, something like this. Yeah, somewhere around April, May, I'd imagine. So that's going to speak to the greater whole, likely as this falling channel over the last like 6 months from June $14,000 highs, where we are right now. So actually for the lower term timeframes, we don't really have too much to go off of, except for like the very, 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 very low time frame historical volatility percentile, which says actually that we're going to be contracting here, which would actually suggest that we probably put in a high, or the volume signature, which does suggest that we get a resolution on this probably in the next week. So yeah. Anyways, we do see that we're kind of hanging around the 618 Fibonacci. Fuck, who gives a fuck? No, of course not. I know people really, really like that. It's great. What else do we want to talk about here? Looking at the hourly is kind of stair-stepping itself. I don't really have too much to add on that. Again, if I am going to be trading the hourly, it is 74.50 that I'd be looking at to hold up as long as Bitcoin's closing above 74.50, especially on like a 2-hour and above. You could even use perhaps an hourly. Probably look for this to make another attempt at like 7,600. Then the real question is, do we actually close a 12-hour above there? If we can close a 12-hour above there, that's where this really starts to look like it wants to make another leap up into the upper 7,000, 7,800, give or take a few bucks, is where I'd be looking towards. And that could be quite the explosive move, actually. Again, looking at all of our higher time frame momentum oscillators, they actually are looking good here. Daily Stokes are gonna work their way back up. So we were looking at this yesterday. So we actually are gonna reject the bearish control zone and opening back up. I really like that. It's being being resilient in this region. We've been unable to do that for the last literal 6 months, after getting rejected from the bullish control zone. So that is nice. That is a change of behavior. Same thing with the 2-day. The 3-day, I think, is still gaining momentum to the upside. Indeed, it is. And then, of course, the weekly as well is it's really, really, really anemic down there, but technically up and came off that same trend line that actually got our last couple major lows. So, there are things in the cards here. And I would say that, yeah, if I had to pick direction, I'd probably pick to the upside. Also kind of piggyback on that, we can go over here to gold. Gold's taken another leg up. We've been bullish on gold. I continue to be bullish on gold. We actually almost even hit the $1,600 target. Right here, we got up to $1,590. And I would say that a bullish gold does bode well for Bitcoin, a bullish Bitcoin, that is. We have kind of like the same falling channel being resolved to the upside right here. I do believe this implies targets somewhere around 1615, 1630-ish region, something like that. I think that we have a little bit more room to go, essentially. And again, just to kind of like show the validity of this, we can bring up the correlation coefficient. Whoops, there we go. Where are you? You beautiful bastard, you. There you are. And show that indeed, we do see a positive correlation. Actually, it's really diminishing though. It's really fucking diminishing. But over the long period of time, we typically do see a positive correlation between gold and Bitcoin. So a bullish gold probably does bode well for Bitcoin. I would be looking for a top to be put in somewhere in this region here. Somewhere in this region, 1610 to like 1630, it looks like. And then we'll kind of reassess from that region. Looking at the weekly momentum also is looking very good here. Weekly Stochs still good. Weekly RSI very good. So fair enough. I like that. Also, we can do the same thing with traditional markets. We do this on a monthly, however, because that gets the monthly that gets the trend correct, and I'd still be bullish on this. I do think that traditional markets are going to pull back to kind of open up this new year, probably this week. I'd imagine. I don't really have a specific target, but I think as long as it's essentially above like 315, I'm overall bullish. And we do see that probably comes down to 319. Then 317.5, and then 315. Anyways, going back to the monthly, we do see that over the long period of time, these guys are positively correlated, and pretty much always positively correlated, except for one major stint down here on the macros, what this speaks towards. And of course, when we're looking at the macro, that gets the macro trend, and with the macro trend actually just having a fresh kind of breakout more recently, I would say that does bode well for Bitcoin as well. So yeah, actually a lot of things, kind of a lot of things on that same side. Again, I'm not necessarily saying that Bitcoin's like going back to new all-time highs from this region, but I do think that it has some upside, most likely, if I had to call it. And looking at daily RSI, we're kind of being resilient as well. Breaking above the same, breaking above areas that we haven't really broken above since early November, which was when Bitcoin was literally at like $9,000. So a little bit of a change of behavior here. Although if we do get rejected from the 55 once again, that's going to print hidden bearish divergence. Then we got a big fat problem. So this is where this in my opinion is the big precipice of the next big move. If Bitcoin does get rejected here, and again, a rejection would be confirmed on a low time frame by moving back to, or not moving down, but closing on a lower time frame below like 7450, and on a higher time frame, especially below like 7300, that would be pretty nasty. Then that would be extremely bearish. However, on the higher, however, if we can close above this region right here, especially 7550 on a daily, that's going to really start to look good for continuation to the upside. Daily Jewel on Bitcoin, kind of giving you continuations here as well, but I do not take those signals. Oh, by the way, also for the people in the Jewel program or any of the indicator programs, you're going to notice that there's actually new videos popping up for you. So enjoy, enjoy. Anyways, okay, what else do we want to talk about while we're here? What are the medium-term time frames doing? 10-hour Stochs actually kind of snaking around a little bit. Yeah, I am the more that I look at this, I'm actually the less confident that I am in that further upside resuming. But I'd still stick with the same areas. And as like kind of an insight, or sorry, kind of like as like a minor bias, I suppose it would be to the up. Anyways, let's go check out what else do we want to check out? Let's go check out Bitcoin dominance really quick. See how this one's doing. And what do we have? Well, we wait for this piece of shit to load. Oh, ooh, nice. It's good. If you just shit talk it, then it will come back down. Okay, so we actually did break that low at about 69.65. I do think that this is going to come down further, probably down towards 69%. So alt's probably going to party around a little bit in the lower term to medium term time frames. Longer term, I do still think that this is likely bullish. If we can load up the weekly. likely gonna end up bullish, yes. But if we do violate 68.5, it's going to be actually altcoin heaven for a while. But I'd still kind of be long-term bullish on this. So short-term, medium-term, probably coming down. Alt's going to party around a little bit. Longer-term, I'd still remain bullish on it. However, 68.5, extremely important. Yeah, about 68.5, a little bit above there, really. Anyways, what else do we want to look at? We can go look at the Bitcoin VWAP ratio. This still a little bit, well, not a little bit, but is very much on the bearish side. I did a full-on deep dive into that on the last video that I uploaded yesterday in the long-term analysis playlist. So that's what I'd say about that. But for now, you know, still not good, but that's still long term. You know, we could rally up all the way to 8,500 and still maintain that. And what's up, Surge 0701? Good to meet you, man. Welcome to the cave. Anyways, go check out some forexes, and then we'll call it a day. This is going to be actually even a faster video. This is great. Okay, so dollar yen. What do we see here? We've been bearish on this one. I'd continue to be bearish on it. We do have a death cross in play. Short term, medium term, I do think it's likely to rally back up somewhere around 108.5, perhaps. Yeah, somewhere right around 108.5. But after that, I look for further downside to resume. Longer term, this is a massive downtrend, is what it looks like to me. Well, at least in the last couple of years, since December 2017. And we just put in another major lower high right here. So yes, long term still be bearish on it. Pound yen, same sort of thing right here. I do think that short term, medium term, we probably bounce back up, maybe back up to like what is this, 142.3 region. Longer term, you know, a couple months out, still think that it probably comes back down to like 138.5, maybe lower than that. Again, massive lower high and a series of lower highs and a very long term downtrend since July 2015. Or sorry, even much longer than that, going all the way back to June 07. We just had another lower high right here with major hidden bearish divergence in play. Weekly RSI looks absolutely atrocious, very bad. What else do we have? Euro dollar, what do we have on over here? I've been like semi-medium to long-term bullish on this, and I believe I'd still stick with that. Here. The question is did we just set in another high right here, or is this a pullback before another explosion to the upside? And I would say that I would be biased to the upside as long as we maintain above the 200 simple on the daily, which is 111.4. But there is issues here, and the longer that it kind of hesitates, the more and more bearish that it becomes, as this is kind of a rising wedge as it stands. So at the end of the day, you know, it is kind of a ticking time bomb, but until we actually break through the bottom support of this, which would be somewhere around, probably somewhere right around here, which is a little bit below 111. I would still suppose I kind of have that bias, but if we do break below that, I would target a move back down to the prior low of 109, and probably lower than that over time, because this would just be another lower high. In fact, the more that I look at this, this is probably likely another lower high. Uh-oh. Hold on. Let's go to a monthly again. I would say, I could be a little bit short-term bullish on this as long as we remain above this month's low, which is 111.247. If we take out this month's low, yeah, I'd probably be looking for another retest of the prior low at 109. What else do we have? We can go look at the top two shitcoins, I suppose, come up with maybe a further bias for this, because I was a little bit apprehensive to pick a side on Bitcoin. Mr. Buteral looks like he wants some upside. Actually looking pretty good here, probably back up towards 145.25. That would still be in the overall context of this long-term downtrend, of course. Something like this is what we're looking at. Actually, even well below that, in fact. That's coming up all the way another 10 bucks higher at 154. So yeah, can definitely rally up here. Still maintaining the downtrend. What about Litecoin? Same thing. Do you think that it has some upside here? Most likely to test somewhere around 46 bucks even. But longer term, again, big problems because this. But yeah. If it can actually break back above 47.5, 47.25, then yeah, I would extend that target a lot more into the upper 50s. But for now, I do think that the alts are showing that we have a little bit of life here and probably get a little bit more testing the upside, and then we'll come back and reassess from there. So yeah, I do think that the upwards bias is still kind of warranted for now. Anyways, I think that's maybe a good time to start to wrap this bitch up. Keep this video a little bit on the shorter side to kind of wrap up the lower term timeframes. As long as we're closing 2-hour deltas above 74.50, I do think that Bitcoin probably does make another leg up. 7,600 quite likely. If we can close this next 12-hour, which closes in about 4 hours, I believe, from now, a little bit less than 4 hours from the time of this recording, then I'd look for extension all the way up to this blue box territory, somewhere between like 77.50 and 78.50ish region. And from there, I do think that we'd have another big pullback from there. But longer term, I actually do think that we'd actually reaccumulate the pullback and very likely move its way into the mid to low 8,000s, around that targeted area from the descending broadening wedge. By the same token, if 74.50 does get violated and we do start to really close like 2-hour or especially 4-hour deltas below there, I would look for Bitcoin to come all the way back down here towards 7,200 evenish region, and this is going to start to look a lot more like a major rejection, setting up the descending triangle and getting ready for the big breakdown probably sometime later this week, early next week. So with that said, I'll be back on later with some Twitch analysis and, well, mostly video gaming, but a little bit of analysis here and there. Really want to focus, really want to keep the analysis in the background, gaming in the foreground on that. But I do enjoy talking about, I do enjoy talking about trading there. Do some live trading there as well, of course. On top of that, what else was I going to say? Yeah, also really don't want to be doing shitcoins over there. That was my New Year's resolution, no more shitcoins. But I'm cool with Forex, traditional land, and commodities, and Bitcoin. And Bitcoin's cool too. And, a few shitcoins here and there is fine, but don't want that to be the focus of anything. Anyways, with all of that said, I think it's time for me to wish you the best of the best, and also the happiest of the happiest as you start your Monday off on this nice week of new opportunities. I'll be on later. Take care, and until next time.